So, you're a young 19-year-old entrepreneur starting out a brand new company in the heart of Silicon Valley. A hotbed of innovation and ambition. The air crackles with excitement as startups rise and fall, chasing the elusive dream of disrupting industries and changing the world. Among them, your company, Theranos, emerges promising to revolutionize healthcare with a groundbreaking blood testing device. Theranos, led by you, captures the attention of investors, the media, and the public alike. With a captivating vision of convenient, accurate, and affordable blood tests, you become a rising star in the healthcare and medical world. You make it to the cover of Forbes. The promise of a future where medical tests are painless and accessible ignites the imaginations of millions. But as the story unfolds, cracks begin to appear. Whistleblowers come forward, revealing a web of deception and manipulation. The device, touted as a game changer, is far from what it seems. Doubts and skepticism grow, casting a shadow over your company's lofty promises. Your once glorified startup finds itself in a legal battle, its reputation shattered and its future uncertain. A captivating story of a founder who flew too close to the sun. This is Theranos, the most deceptive medical company on the planet, and this is how they executed their plan.
What do you dream for something in 2025?
That less people have to say goodbye too soon to people they love.
That's great. Can you tell us a secret?
I don't have many secrets.
In 2003, Stanford freshman Elizabeth Holmes developed the idea of creating a patch that would test microscopic blood samples for infectious diseases and administer antibiotics. This idea evolved into Theranos, aiming to replace conventional blood tests requiring tubes of blood with a pen-like device called the Edison, which collected just a few drops instead. With this, Theranos intended to make blood tests less painful, faster, and cheaper, threatening existing traditional market leaders. After dropping out of Stanford, Holmes used her college fund to kickstart Theranos and recruited her Stanford professor, Channing Robertson, to be her first board member. Robertson provided Theranos with scientific credibility and spent a significant period defending Holmes and Theranos against critical questions and doubts about the effectiveness of the technology. He also put Holmes in touch with venture capitalists, and she had raised $6 million in capital by the end of 2004. Holmes is said to have worshipped and emulated Apple founder Steve Jobs. She hired Apple designers for the product design of the laboratory's Edison device, and she soon appeared wearing only black turtlenecks. Holmes also began to speak with a deeper voice, something a little like this.
And so of course I'm trying to, be humble.
She went public with this image in 2013, and in 2015, Theranos had partnered with Walgreens to offer tests in over 40 stores. The media couldn't resist the allure of Theranos. Backed by impressive investors and a charismatic leader, Theranos quickly gained attention and reached a valuation of just over $9 billion. Holmes, with her signature black turtleneck and unwavering confidence, became a prominent figure in the industry. She graced the covers of magazines, giving interviews that painted a mesmerizing picture of a young genius challenging the status quo. Some of the most prominent names on Wall Street fell for the allure of the company's promises. From influential investors to renowned venture capitalists, they eagerly handed over their cash, hoping to ride the wave of a groundbreaking revolution. In 2011, Holmes met former US Secretary of State George Shultz, and shortly afterwards, he too became a Theranos board member. With the help of his connections, the board was filled with influential people from politics and business over the next few years. Walmart's founding Walton family invested $150 million. Media mogul Rupert Murdoch put in more than $120 million, while former Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos contributed $100 million. The involvement of such influential figures fueled the hype around Theranos and lent an air of legitimacy to the company. The first sign that Theranos was not operating in good faith came when doubts were raised about the feasibility of their technology and the lack of transparency surrounding their operations. These doubts were further exacerbated by the company's reluctance to provide substantial evidence and independent validation of their technology. The lack of peer-reviewed studies and published data raised red flags among skeptics, who expected rigorous scientific scrutiny in the medical industry.
And we've made it possible to eliminate the tubes and tubes of blood that traditionally have to be drawn from an arm, and replaced it with the nanotainer.
Interviews with Holmes suggested Theranos could conduct over 200 to 250 test types. However, the Edison did not deliver what Theranos promised, providing unreliable or false results. Only the test for the herpes virus was recognized as reliable by the US Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, that July. Theranos was later found to have concealed the limited capabilities of their device and instead secretly used traditional blood testing methods, specifically Siemens equipment, for most of its tests. The shortcomings of their proprietary technology only came to light after a 2015 FDA inspection. But what doesn't make sense is how unsustainable all of this was. Given the company's value, it was inevitable that someone would uncover the truth. But it didn't matter. Holmes was determined to push forward with the lie. Red flags indicated a pattern of rule bending, and journalists exposed this, tarnishing Theranos' reputation. The admired startup turned into a symbol of corporate greed and ambition as the media narrative transitioned from praise to skepticism. In 2009, Ramesh Balwani joined Theranos. Despite lacking biomedical knowledge and startup experience, he managed daily operations. Employees soon noticed his lack of understanding of lab processes. Known for his hot temper, Balwani was the company's enforcer. Holmes hid the fact that she was in a relationship with Balwani from staff and the board.
Were you and Sunny Balwani ever engaged in a romantic relationship?
Yes,
When?
for a long period of time.
Would you say for the majority of that time were you living with Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Did you ever tell investors that you had a romantic relationship?
No.
A diagnostic team member, Tyler Schultz, quickly spotted issues with test results that were being altered and falsely reported. He observed that neither employees nor inspectors fully understood how Edison functioned, partly due to restricted lab access.
I was running precision testing for syphilis, and there was a lot of variability in the test, but Theranos said this is safe to use on real patient samples, and I was kind of blown away.
This was to conceal the fact that third-party equipment, not Theranos devices, performed many of the blood tests. Arika Chung, a lab assistant drawn to Holmes' vision, worked at Theranos for 6 months in 2013 to 2014 before discovering falsified test results, including a personal blood test incorrectly indicating vitamin D deficiency. When she reported these issues to Balwani, he questioned her competence. Alarmed, she resigned, after which Theranos harassed her, employing private investigators to follow her, leading her to move residencies multiple times and switch to a prepaid phone for privacy. Schultz also raised concerns about the problems internally, but Holmes dismissed them. Even Schultz's grandfather, board member George Schultz, initially did not believe him.
It was extremely frustrating at that point to know that he was being lied to and he just would not listen to what I had to say. Especially as a board member, I felt like, this isn't just a grandson talking to his grandfather, this is an employee talking to the board member of the company they both work for.
Tyler was urged by his family and Theranos lawyers to quit and sign a confidentiality agreement. He declined. Like Schultz, Chung was also pressured by company lawyers. After a Wall Street Journal reporter named John Carreyrou contacted her, she received threatening legal action from Theranos' high-profile corporate lawyer. In 2015, Chung alerted the regulatory agency CMS about issues at Theranos, prompting a surprise inspection that uncovered multiple violations. Tyler Schultz chose a different route, sharing information with Carreyrou. This led to an October 2015 expose revealing that Theranos used third-party equipment for blood tests, and that Edison yielded unreliable results. In response, Theranos vehemently denied all allegations and threatened Carreyrou and Schultz with legal action. The state regulator, CMS, issued a warning that Theranos tests posed a risk to patient health. By spring, both law enforcement and the SEC had initiated investigations into Theranos, leading to Balwani's departure from the company. Holmes was indicted on federal wire fraud charges in June of 2018, while the company was still officially in operation. The charges were brought by the US Department of Justice, which accused Holmes and Ramesh Balwani of engaging in a multi-million-dollar scheme to defraud investors, as well as a scheme to defraud doctors and patients. The initial start date for the trial was set for July 28, 2020, but the COVID-19 pandemic caused multiple delays. The trial eventually started on August 31, 2021. During Holmes' trial's first week, the prosecution showcased key witnesses and documents. Ex-lab director Adam Rosendorf spoke in detail about the Edison device's failures and Holmes' indifference. 2 female patients highlighted the device's false results. One was misdiagnosed with HIV, and another was mistakenly informed of a miscarriage. She later gave birth to a healthy baby. Internal emails exposed Theranos' concealment of these errors from investors and partners using a demo device, and by partially hiding test results from them. The prosecution exposed a 55-page report with fraudulently added logos of GlaxoSmithKline, Pfizer, and Schering-Plough, falsely implying their approval of Theranos' technology. Despite a Pfizer scientist finding Theranos' claims implausible and advising against collaboration, prosecutors revealed Theranos still circulated a report to investors and partners featuring fraudulently added logos. Holmes stated that she regretted the falsified report with the company logos inserted. She also admitted that she had harassed former employees such as whistleblowers Erika Chung and Tyler Schultz with private investigators and lawyers. The defense repeatedly tried to blame the investigators for a lack of due diligence. Under cross-examination, Holmes' lawyers tried to accuse the investors of not having done enough research on the startup out of greed for money. The logic behind the strategy is that big promises are part and parcel of Silicon Valley. Companies like Uber or WeWork lure investors with grand visions of their technologies, which may still be in the early stages of development, which only becomes a profitable business after years. Under cross-examination, Holmes had to admit to having had a relationship with another man for several years during her relationship with Balwani. She had to read out emails and text messages between her and her former partner in which they discussed problems at Theranos. The prosecution tried to make it clear that, contrary to the defense's claims, Holmes was well aware of what was wrong at her company. Both Holmes and Balwani were convicted of defrauding investors, with Balwani sentenced to nearly 13 years in prison in December 2022, beginning his term in March of 2023. Holmes was found guilty on 4 out of 11 charges, such as defrauding investors, although she was acquitted of the other charges, including defrauding patients. Holmes was sentenced to more than 11 years in prison in mid-November 2022, a sentence much harsher than the 18 months of house arrest her lawyers requested. Given the birth of her second child this year, Holmes requested to remain free while she appeals her conviction, but this was denied by a federal judge, and she was ordered to begin her sentence on April 27, 2023.